and I'm sure he knows what perseverance means, especially when he described the hardship he came through as a child. Good morning, Sir Bayliss Fredericks. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
I can't hear you, man.
I said, good morning, good morning.
Better. Well, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you were with us and you were talking about your experience in the post-emancipation, and I'm not too sure if you would regard it as post-colonial, and you know, you would explain that to us when you respond. But you know, talk to us about what's going through your mind as you hear about independence, the independence song in the air for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and a few months ago it was Jamaica and Trinidad, and you know, talk to us, tell us.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is something rather explosive. Explosive in the sense that a lot of people would be condemning me for putting into words on air the actual factual situation of St. Vincent in this today's sort of festive, sort of stage display of what I think called independence. Now, when we think of things like independence, things like justice, things like rule of law, things like civilization, words that the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, he uses these words willy-nilly. When you hear those words and you think about them, you come to the conclusion that Dr. Gonsalves is somewhat of a mental hypocrite, because independence, if you look at any good dictionary, the definition of independence is something that will shock you in relation as you relate it to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Such words as justice, such words as civilization, the people do not understand, because they never give the correct definition of what these concepts are. Now, take independence. Independence is freedom from dependence on others, particularly government and the economy and things financial. Your total dependence on others for your livelihood, for living, for developing as a village, as a town, as a nation, as a people. Your dependence. What we do have in St. Vincent right now, we are led by somebody with a bowl go about begging. We look forward to begging. We look forward to getting something from outside so that we could survive. And by survival, I mean barely survive. Now, that question of independence gets one thing, because we're not independent. We depend upon the coalition of the willing. We depend upon going to see if Azerbaijan could give us anything. We want to go by Mexico to see if it could give us anything. And we go about looking for things. And the thing that you have are people in St. Vincent, Vincentians in St. Vincent. They can work, they like to work, and when they work, they do well, and when they work, they bring their children up properly, and they do everything that human beings do to their children with a view to the future. Now, see, this is not building, what is going on is not building St. Vincent, it's not assisting St. Vincent. We are dependent upon others for everything, and we do not develop ourselves. We do not have any jobs for the people in this country. We do not sit down and get things going. The government is not interested in the people as such to see of their development. And as to the development, the question of civilization. Now, what is civilization? Civilization, my dear lady, according to Dr. Murray's dictionary, civilization is that state of human and society regarded as having reached a high level of intellectual and social and cultural development. It is the stage of a society, the stage of St. Vincent as having reached a high level of intellectual, social and cultural development. That is civilization.
But who determines the level though? Sorry to cut in. Who determines the level and what's the criteria for that high level?
Well, this level is fixed at any particular period in that nation's, the people's existence, the people's state. For example, as Grenada, for example, the people of Grenada, you talk about the civilization insofar as Grenada is concerned. It depends on its particular level of development, social, intellectual, cultural, that it has reached at the particular time that you're thinking of. So that when you talk about the people of St. Vincent, you're talking about the civilization, the cultural, social, intellectual, economic development of St. Vincent, not just a word to put in a book that most people don't understand and don't know what it means. They've been sort of hoodwinked with. Now,
sorry, go ahead.
Now, when you look at independence in context of the same civilization that we're talking about, where are we? We are nowhere. My dear lady, if the concept, the thought of this dreaded scourge on the face of the earth, now Ebola, the thought of Ebola reaching St. Vincent is so frightening that I believe people will jump off, panic, and commit suicide. Because St. Vincent doesn't even have the wherewithal, the health system is such that there is absolutely nothing here. Nothing. You go to hospital and sometimes you can't even get toilet paper. And what is the stage of our development? As we are independent, they say we are celebrating independence now, and we are looking at where are we? Are we to the old colonial days when they used to get a lot of buns and sweet drinks, aerated waters, and so on, and you give the children when you get them at school sing patriotic song to Britain, and you give them a bun and something, and they spend a good sort of use. Well, it was in those days the Queen's birthday and things like those. No, we passed that. We're a people. We're supposed to be not dependent on others. We're supposed to be developing ourselves. We're supposed to be a people. We're supposed to be proud. We're supposed to be boastful, if anything.
But some of us are boastful. We are proud to be Vincentians.
Oh yes.
Some would say that no matter what, we still have what it takes to be proud of, and you are saying otherwise.
Yes, what I'm saying, the majority of the people are oblivious to their own situation. By this I mean that those who are fortunate to have had parents to push them, to break that poverty line, to break that sort of intellectual barrier, to break into the upper echelons, those of us, we are proud to be Vincentians, proud to have achieved, proud of our own accomplishments. But the bulk of St. Vincent is not, sad to say, the bulk of St. Vincent are people that are manipulated by the administration to only satisfy those who occupy the positions in the administrative sector. But the rest of the people, they don't care about them, man. They have, what are they boastful of? What are they proud of? To be alive, yes. But beyond that, they cry every day, suffering.
Yeah, on what premise do you make such a statement that the majority or the bulk? What premise do you? Yes.
On the streets today, you hear the complaints, you hear the cries, you see the injustices, you see a manifestation in the whole community of a dramatic, catastrophic increase in crime. You see no work, lack of employment, no work for people to do. You see this health sector not even living up to the name of a hospital. You see everything that affects the bulk of the people. If you get ill in St. Vincent, the first thing you do is look for the money to get out, to go to some other hospital, some other place. Oh Lord, this is the yardstick that you use to see what is the condition of the people among whom you live, to see how they are living, how they are getting by, and what are their gripes, their cries, their bawls, their bawling. And this is on that basis that I make the statement, because you see every day, you hear cries about the justice system. The justice system in this country...
Before we get there, hold on to that, the justice system of this country. Let's get a radio ID.
This is Nice Radio featuring Global Highlights, which is produced and hosted by Rosa King. Today in studio with us is veteran lawyer and civil rights activist, Mr. Bayliss Fredericks. Global Highlights can be heard right here every Saturday morning from 10:15 to 11:15 p.m. 10:15 to 11:15 a.m. We also stream live on the internet at niceradio.info. Send your comments and emails to globalhighlights@gmail.com.
Thank you. Bayliss, you were saying the justice system of this country? Go on.
Yes, ma'am. My dear lady, people, the crime is related to the justice system. Crime is the result of law enforcement and the way law is applied, the application of law, the dispensing of law is what tells the people how to behave. They behave according to what they perceive, what they conceive as the system. Even on the street, you go to the market, you hear people talking now about that word system, and they are using its system in the true context that what pervades in the community, the law system as pervades in the community. They instruct the children who are growing up. They instruct them as to how to behave, and they're behaving as criminals. They're shooting people. They're perpetrating some heinous little offenses all about St. Vincent today. Every day you're listening for somebody else getting shot or killed or something, and these are the things that make people get angry, because the administration ought to know. They ought to know. They are put in position to know. They are the ones that have to guide the people to a type of civilization that is comparable to fulfillment of the individual, but nothing of that kind happens. The justice system here, indeed, there is a slogan, there is a British phrase, the law is an ass. That British phrase applies here fully because that is a phrase that the British, they have used when the law as applied is contrary to common sense. In other words, people don't like how the law is applied. You get somebody stealing or embezzling or making use of $3,000, $4,000, $100,000, and you hear on the street that person pays $6,000 fine for thieving $300,000. This is what the general public hears, and they hearing this, they turn around and they say the law is an ass. This is how the British people sort of apply that phrase. And when we look at take Bigger Biggs, he has done absolutely nothing. He has not committed any offense, because had he committed an offense, they would have charged him, put him in jail for committing the offense. But he hasn't committed any offense. Yet look at the harm they have done to him. Not committing any offense. So they say that the law is manipulated and doesn't exist for some people. It is the whim and fancy of those who are in position to administer the law. And this is what goes through somebody's mind when you come to being independent. You come to think about independence. Independence is not because the parade by the police. It's not that parade, the band playing music and so on. That is not independence. Independence is what the people experience in their day-to-day thing. If you don't go and beg massa for a job, you don't get a job. Or if you get a job and you didn't behave, and massa said you ought not to behave, you ought not to remain in that job, massa, make sure that you victimize and get out of that job. And there are things that going on that tells you that the system is not there. The system is not working. There is no system that is applied by common sense to everybody in the context of that word called justice.
But we are focusing on St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and if you remember the clip that we played earlier with the voice of the Prime Minister Gonzalez, he acknowledged that some of the situations that you just described is region-wide. And so how do you respond to that?
My dear lady, because I cannot sing, is no yardstick to measure, say, my grandchild.
I didn't get that. You said what?
Well, let me put it another way.
Uh-huh.
There is no logic or justification because something is bad in St. Lucia that it is acceptable in St. Vincent, or because there is this war going on in the Middle East, it justifies putting on a tax, putting on more a tax, a greater tax on petrol. The logic that is being bandied about is that Dr. Gonzalez can't say that because there is a downturn in the economy, it justifies him not looking for jobs for the people in St. Vincent. He's got to find a way of how to stimulate or how to get around the problems that we are facing here. If you ignore the problems or try to blame those problems on what is happening next door, that's not right.
Let's go wider still. Today marks 31 years since the invasion of the Americans in Grenada, just putting to end another revolution. I say another revolution because of the happenings that in the 1930s and so on. I'm sure you might have been bang in the middle of it, or or the aftermath of it anyway. Talk to us about your experience of that invasion. What did it mean for you and the people with whom you associated at the time?
The truth is a very painful thing to sometimes rehearse. I was totally agreed, totally of the mind that the American invasion of Grenada was right, was correct. I was not supporting the Grenadian, coup d'etat, trying to take over Grenada. I didn't support that at all. Because, and this is personal, basically and deep inside, I'm a law and order man, and I am very deeply religious. And the Grenada debacle, it didn't push Grenada forward. It gave Grenada a sort of when you take it cleansed the Grenada. It stimulated Grenada's thinking, and what followed is beneficial to Grenada. But at the time the Grenada Revolution, I didn't support it. I didn't do anything to assist it. I did not do anything at the same time I did not join in to put it down. No, I didn't, because you don't interfere in other people's business of that nature. But
also, you thought I was trying to work out which aspect of it you didn't like. The beginning of it, in 1983, I think it was, when the New Juror movement moved in. That's what you didn't agree with. The beginning of the revolution is what you didn't agree with.
I still take the law as I learned it in Britain, the English law.
Okay.
I sort of, everything in my activities, in whatever that I do, is the background to it all is British law. I am not British, I am a Negro. I'm of African descent. But the British law, to me, is nearly as correct as the good book. And if there is to be a protest or a desire for change, I prefer the British method. I live the British method. I'm not going to shoot down anybody for anything. I'm not going to take the law into my own hands. I am going to use the law, and I am prepared to protest within the law and do everything within the law. The question of starting, for example, if we are disgusted with the administration of this country for starting or siding with people to put together some sort of movement for forcibly ousting thing, I'm the first one that's going to run to the police and say, no, that bad, put it down. I can't help.
But that's contrary. I don't think many people would see you in that light. I kind of diverted a little bit, but let's get back to the trend of thinking where you're saying you didn't agree with it, but the benefits of that revolution, if you will, was good. It set Grenadians to thinking. So let's get back to that one.
Well, this is what has happened. This is what has happened. All the actors, all the activists who came after the Cord and what's his name, after their attempt, all those activists were sober people. The activists after that were stone cold sober.
I hear you thinking. Go ahead. Say what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is that these things are different to what is happening here in St. Vincent. What is happening here in St. Vincent is leadership in St. Vincent. They do not care about the people they lead. That's all. I'm saying that.
And a sober leader would care.
But that is why you're appointed. Look, I heard somebody on radio last week. They were attacking something that the government did. I can't give the details of it, but the host, who is a ULP, was telling that person, all you have to do then is to go and sue government. Now, if a ULP member is thinking in a sort of, call it that sort of channel, because it is a channel, that we do not provide the rules and regulations for something to happen. Since we do not provide the machinery, the mechanism for something to be done quietly and properly, what you must do is to go and sue the government. I got angry. Because it is the job of the government to provide the rules that makes it not impossible, but addresses the cause for complaint.
See what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But there's another implication there. You sue the government, and I remember just after the 2010 elections, a group of people tried to sue the same government, and what they did, they went to Parliament to change the law.
Yes.
And a lot of people overlook that. The power in the government, especially this, seems to be that of suppressing opposition, even when it is legal, by making it illegal.
My dear ma'am, this government, this present administration, the present government, I got mad and reacted with passion in the courthouse shortly after police entered the registry to remove some clerks from the registry. How can police go to the registry to do something there, except it is bad behavior by a citizen that you go commit, the citizen commits some sort of offense, you go to arrest him and came out. But to interfere in the workings of the registry, police interfere. You can't. This is the thing for the Legal Service Commission. This is the thing for the justice system. This is the thing for the Chief Justice to address on the behavior of a registrar. But no, instead of that, you have the Prime Minister addressing the matter that concerns the administration of justice.
And as you say that, let's talk just briefly though. Similarly, you had the Prime Minister from his, by all intents and purposes, from his sickbed in Cuba, calling on radio to announce publicly that because he did not have a license.
My dear
And in
lady,
the next few weeks,
look,
he will be demonstrating how that action, there is no law to support that action.
my lady, this is what I know, not believe, I know. The British government has certain systems, checks and balances, regulations, rules, practices, that they cater for the smooth running of everything. And the only time under the British systems that something is not running properly is when somebody breaks a rule. You begin to do something wrong, it is reflected in the system. You know that it is wrong. And there used to be a regular internal or departmental inquiry and departmental court disciplinary hearing for civil servants and police and all those people who have to work in the public service. Now take for example the question of collecting the national insurance monies, collecting that monies and taking it and not depositing it to the treasury, to diverting the use of that money to some other something. The rules of the regulatory rules of the civil service, somebody ought to be locked up for that, because the rules, I don't have a copy of it with me, but the rules show how the money should be passed and who should pass it when and that sort of story. And for that rule not to apply, it means that somebody higher up, member cabinet or the Prime Minister or the Governor General or somebody, got to by their hand take the responsibility for directing the breaking of a rule. But what we have here, that they break rules and they disregard rules at will, and you can't do anything at all about it. And this is so. Bigger Biggs hasn't committed any offense. And according to the rules in the civil service, if Bigger Biggs for them to be able to do what they did, the first thing that they should have done is to write to Bigger Biggs and tell him, look, we observe you are doing so, will you please desist or we shall take action against you as the case may be. And he doesn't comply, then you go send him a next letter and you say, well look.
It's called due process, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is what should happen.
Exactly.
But nothing of the kind happens. They don't bother with any rules here. They call by telephone and say, look, go and lock up so. And they lock you up, or go and do so, and you go and do it.
That's right. Correct.
You have even a minister went in some department one day and cursed the civil servant or something like a minister, you know. And they do anything, and the people don't know, the people cannot, look, to protest here is extremely difficult. I have stood up in the court and complained to a judge of the interference by the administration, and what the judge told me. As a lawyer, she said, would you please put that on paper that I could pass it to the Chief Justice, because I can't, as he can't handle it, and the Chief Justice will want to handle that. I mean, what system we have?
I know. But before we get to the end, what we didn't hear from you, having come through that experience as a child with abject poverty, you didn't tell us about your education to become a lawyer. Where did you do your law studies, legal studies?
Lady, oh boy, you send me back in a little hole. That little hole is this, that I got in cahoots with some young people recently when I told them that the will, the desire and the determination to achieve something causes you to do all manner of what is ordinarily impossible, to overcome tremendous hurdles to get to do what you want to do. I wanted to become a lawyer because I won an exhibition to go to secondary school, and I wasn't granted the scholarship, the exhibition. I wasn't granted because I was 21 days too old. Bishop Anstey paid my first year to go to secondary school as the Anglican bishop in Trinidad. And it sort of hardened me wanting to become a lawyer. And I scraped the passage for the Columbia, the ship Columbia, and I landed in Britain with £5. And with £5, I started working, and I worked all sorts of little jobs, odd jobs, but the one that stayed longest that was washing plates at Lyons restaurant in London. I washed plates to the tune where I had to hide my hands because my two hands, the skin peeled off, and so I did a lot of things and so on. And I studied. I went to Northwestern Polytechnic, and then I went to law school, and I qualified.
How old were you when you scraped through the money and went on the Columbia?
I was about 30 years old.
Okay.
About 30.
Okay.
And,
and you see, go ahead, sorry.
And it was all along a fight against poverty. Up to the present time now, I'm talking. anything that touches, concerns poverty. I would go down to the market here in St. Vincent and stand up and talk for hours to find out what's going on with people in their lives and so on. I go from church to church as an itinerant preacher, and I preach to people and I talk to people, and I know what is going on. I can sense poverty, and whenever there is poverty about, I get enthused. I can't help. It's a disease with me.
With all that experience through certainly the 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, what's your impression of us in the region as a Caribbean nation? Where are we, and where do you think we might get to, given the circumstances?
Miss, if I will, let me be honest and let me be truthful and answer straight off the cuff. I am suffering now a setback with my sight, but for years, a matter of some 30 or so years, I want to attack the present practice of Christianity. I want to attack them because the people who control, the people who form the governance of the governments of the people in the Caribbean, they do not understand the relationship of people with their God and people with one another. And the problem in the whole Caribbean, as indeed with the world, the larger world, perhaps some people say I'm crazy, perhaps I am, but the lack of understanding that one human being here in St. Vincent is related to that other human being that is in the Solomon Islands of New Zealand or down the far other end of the earth, that there's a relationship, and that relationship is the common tie between God in that man and God in the man here in St. Vincent, and it is the God that keeps the individual over there and the individual here functioning. Remove the God and both will die. But the God is the more important thing, and if men could respect man because there's a God, his brother is in the fellow that he's entreating or he's trying to entreat or he's trying to rob, if he could appreciate the fact that there's another human God in that fellow, then you have a world that is sort of a little better accommodative, call it that.
So you see a spiritual solution to all of this more than
it has to be, ma'am. It has to be.
Yeah.
Because
my difficulty with that, Bayliss, is that to me it's about consciousness, conscious development, and no two people develop at the same rate, and so I am not sure how we would get everybody at one with that same level of consciousness. And this is just this morning I said it's a discussion I'd really love to explore, but the time is not out. So where do we go from here as a nation, as a region? Where do we go, do you think? We had a little insight, just a little peek in the future with a change in administration, but standing outside of politics, where do we go?
I am of opinion, because I can't prove anything, that the present team of candidates with the party led by Mr. Eustace, they are more God-related, more related to the thinking that all men are equal, that all men are God's children. They are the only team that I have seen for a long time that consider people as being the most important commodity in the territory. And I have hope on that team. As a matter of fact, I am trying my best to put together a mobile church. And the mobile church will be going from village to village to exhort the Christianity in people to show itself rebuilding this country into a proper society and the whole Caribbean. It's perhaps...
It's only fair though, we're getting to the end of the time, it's only fair that I ask you, how did you not see a God-related acknowledgement among people in the Unity Labour Party when they were in opposition? How did you not see that?
I have spoken with several members of the Unity Labour Party, and God is not with them. They are far from God. They call God's name as hypocrites. That is, actors. They are acting a thing. The concern for human beings are absent, and only people who recognize the God in others that are compassionate.
I see what you're saying. Well, we're at the end of our time. I want to thank Dr. Fredericks and his team of Nice Radio for providing this medium where we can discuss any and everything from any standpoint. I want to thank our listeners for listening. Carl, thank you so much for holding the fort for us at base, and you have the final or the closing remarks, Bayliss. And if you can wait some time after this. Closing remarks?
Yes, ma'am. Closing remarks. The most I could say is that without the rule of law, there must be rules. And if there are no rules, this country is doomed. And the rules are for the protection of the people, the promotion of the welfare of the people, not for the grandeur or promotion of social and financial objectives of the activists and those who jump in and start seeking to exploit the nation. There has to be a movement, not political movement, a religious movement in this nation to build back St. Vincent, because it has gone too far.
Thank you so much. This is Global Highlights, Luther King, Washington, D.C. Same time, same place next week.